Anyway, today, it's getting cold in here. I'm going to talk about my experience with these forks here on my KTM 2016 EXC-F 350. These are 48mm WP open cartridge, open chamber forks. I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but that's what it's going to be. So I have this piece of paper. I've been keeping track of all the settings for the suspension as I've been changing them. FC means front compression and FR is front rebound. R is rear compression low, RCL, rear compression high, and rear rebound. And then I have a date, and then I keep notes as I make changes. So at the very top up here, these are the stock settings, which the book calls out. And this is for how many clicks out you have on your clickers. Here's to the settings that I've had over time. And you can kind of see where if you could see where I end up here, is at 22, 20, 25, 2 turns out, 28, which is basically a comfort setting according to the book. But then I have my fork fluid oil set at 90 millimeters. So that's what I did, and then I had to actually kind of
blah blah blah. Basically, I had it set to comfort settings with 90 millimeter air gap in my fork, and what I'm going to change it to is comfort and 135 millimeter fork oil level. And well, who cares what I'm pointing to in the video? I'm doing a voiceover right now. Anyway, so I did that based on a recommendation from a friend who has rebuilt these a bunch, and he says, you know, usually the air gap is too small. In fact, the biggest it says to go in my manual is 120 millimeters. Anyway, I tried 135. By the end of this video, I have it installed, and I went on a long 4+ hour ride yesterday, and it was the sickest setup I've had yet with these forks. So I suggest that.
The other thing I was gonna say is, what was I gonna say? Alright, first thing you gotta do is clean everything up. Clean, clean, clean. Water. If your forks are leaking, now is a good time to use the seal mate to seal off any leaks. Unless, of course, you're going to be changing out the seals, then skip this step. Now it's time to remove the wheel.
Here I'm squeezing the caliper to make the brake pads go apart, but I'll show you a way how to get them spread apart even more a little bit later in this video. Loosen the axle nut almost all the way, but leave it on there with just a thread or two. Now loosen the pinch bolts on both sides. Now push in the axle where the bolt is that you loosened up. And sometimes I push a little further with my finger if I can, but don't push too far to where it slides all the way out and you crush your finger in there when the wheel falls down. I've never done that, but it seems easy enough to do. So it should come out pretty easy like that. If not, you didn't grease it well last time you put it in. Alright, so now you take off the fork guards. And this one I lost a screw. Oh, sorry, not this one. The next one you're going to see. This one I lost a screw on the bottom, so you only got 2 screws there on the bottom. Alright, now I got to take off the brake caliper. Last time I mounted it, I put on too much Loctite, so yeah, just put a tiny little dip of Loctite on the tip and a little drop, not a little dip. And yeah, you'll see when I take these screws out, there's a whole bunch of crud on there in the middle. It doesn't need to be there, and now I got to go clean it all off. before I reinstall the brakes. So anyway, when you see me, so anyway, I'm getting behind. You got to clip that little, what do you call it, zip ties? And so just kind of set the brake caliper over the fender. Here's the stuff I use for cleaning Loctite off. I need to get a wire wheel and a grinder because right now it takes too long. When you spray that stuff, use safety glasses. Use plastic shims, jam them inside there, and then you get the brakes, excuse me, the brake pads to spread out a little bit. All right, next step is loosen the top triple clamps. And wait for me. Anyway, no, I'm just showing you, like, you know. The other side, I'll speed it up. And then now I didn't get the bottom, so loosen the bottom triple clamps. You see, I can't get the fork out of here, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use plastic shims again. So just take these screws all the way out on the bottom and the top, and then I'm going to jam a little plastic shim in there. And when you jam shims in the top and the bottom, you know, just a little bit, just enough to spread it a tiniest little bit. And then as soon as you get the fork out, just pop those plastic shims out of there, because you don't want, you know, you don't want it to be, you're not trying to permanently spread that or anything. All right, now you want to take all your clickers all the way out. So loosen your rebound and your compression. You might want to do this as the very first thing so you don't forget, but I have a checklist, so I just go over my checklist and then I won't forget. Because if you don't get the compression loosened, then it's harder to drain the oil out. And if you don't get the rebound adjusted, well, you can't put the cap back on or it won't work right when you do. So use the sport cap tool. I don't know, they cost like 20 bucks. Got to go look it up and find one. And then that loosens that up. Then you screw the rest by hand, and that makes that fork tube come down. So, and that is not torqued at all. There's just an O-ring there, and I very gently torque it when I put this back together. So I'll say that again later, but that's important to know right now. Okay, so you pull the spring down a little bit, and you put this 22 millimeter wrench in there. You got to have a thin wrench. I grind it down. You can watch my old video when I grind it down. And so you just kind of pop that top cap loose with a 24 millimeter wrench. And so now this cap is like, right when I first was spinning it, it was spinning the whole rod, which is fine. But now I'm holding the rod with my hand on the bottom, and I'm just spinning the cap. So it's kind of an important concept. This cap needs to bottom out on that rod, and then it gets screwed down onto that nut below, which is right above the plastic spring guide. All right, so once you get that off, then you can hold the spring up there, let it drain. And I forgot to take the aluminum rod out right here, so I'm starting to drain the oil, but then you'll see I noticed the rod now. So you take this rod out, and you're gonna have to take it out eventually. You don't actually have to take it out, but I do, and I'll show you why when I start filling up the oil. Okay, so now you kind of put your hand over the top like this. In my old video, I was doing it way too much, you know, so you just got to do a little bit. And I don't really even know if that helps when you're draining the oil, but basically you want to get it to where that piston goes up and down without feeling any oil left in there, and you'll notice when it happens. But so here I'm just kind of messing with the piston, pumping it a little bit, trying to do whatever I can to kind of get that oil freed up in there. Now it's going up and down real freely, so that means I drained all the oil out. If you're changing your bushings, you don't got to worry about it too much. You just kind of pull the whole thing apart and all the oil comes out. But when you're not, if you're just changing oil, well, this is how I do it. So there you saw I screwed the spring guide down, and see how I cover that hole with my finger so that no oil can get in there. Apparently you don't want any oil to come down in that center hole, or it'll slowly sort of like leave a film on your rebound adjuster, and you'll have an oily top fork for like ever, and you won't know why. I don't know if that's true, but it probably is, because I heard it on Jeff Slavin's video. And yeah, a lot of this stuff is you can watch on Jeff Slavin's video, and he talks, you know, he speaks a lot better than I do. I'm a dumbass, so you can see kind of like him doing this. Like right now, you push down there, and then the fork oil level goes down a little bit. So now I'm going to add more fork oil, which is 5-weight rock oil, whatever. Anyway, so I add more. I'm trying to add it to where it just comes above that little nut, and that's just so I can tell when I do this thing right here if the level goes down. So you're trying to make sure that the level doesn't. You just keep adding oil and keep pushing it like that until the level doesn't go down, and until you don't see any bubbles in there. And then you're ready to move on to the next step. And I kind of want. Okay. I kind of wanted to show the whole process in this video and not skip over a bunch of stuff. But that's how long it took, but sped up. So now I am sucking out oil with this this tool. You can buy a Race Tech tool, it costs over $100, or you can get this Motion Pro tool, which costs like, I forget, $40. And this Motion Pro tool is kind of shitty. I mean, it gets the job done and it leaks oil everywhere, let's just put it that way. So right now I'm wishing I had that cool Race Tech one, but I just got the Motion Pro one, which is, you know, hey, it's fine. Motion Pro usually has really kick-ass stuff, but apparently they sell kind of a, I don't know. Yeah, it's fine. Hey, you know what? I'm using it, so I don't know. But so yeah, now what I didn't show there is you got to pull that center piston all the way up with the fork tube and then let it drop one last time, and that's how you set your fork oil level. Go look up Jeff Slavin's WP, the same video that he does, and he talks a little bit more about it. Okay, so now I slam my wrench back in there, and I'm gonna spin this fork cap on, and I kind of hold the piston rod with my left hand. You see there, I'm holding it steady. You don't really have to do that, but right now I'm making sure that piston rod doesn't spin so that I know the fork cap bottoms out on it. See right there, I just hit it. And I think I loosen it back up, and I just kind of double checking. I don't know what I'm doing with the wrench here. I'm being an idiot. So anyways, but you just make sure that cap is tight, and then you're good. Now you can start. Now what I'm doing when I'm screwing is it's actually screwing the whole piston rod, and so that it'll touch that nut that's on top of the spring, plastic spring guide. And keep going, keep going, keep going. Now I grab my wrench and I just give it a tiniest little, just barely noticeable snug. You know, just enough you can kind of feel an O-ring push down a little bit. And same thing here. I just kind of tighten it with hand, and just a tiny little bit of snugness. I use that fork cap tool. Here we go. And I clean everything off really good first with just dry towels, and then I use some Simple Green right here, some sort of soap, because I don't want an oily film right here where my triple clamps are going to mount this thing. So clean that up real good. And incidentally too, I use Simple Green when you get spills on the floor. That works really good for that too. It cleans it right up. And because most of the stuff I do in the shop here is very clean, so when I have something like changing oil, it's man, I just like to clean it all up, put cardboard down or something. So here I'm just kind of fast forwarding. I'm doing the other fork. Yeah, you can see, okay, taking the top cap off, dropping that down, getting my fucking wrenches in there, getting the top cap loose. Oh, then I'll take it all the way off. And then taking the spring out, letting it drain for a second, putting the spring over there, getting the aluminum rod out, putting that in there. Now I'm going to drain the oil out. And it's kind of like repetition, right? I watch these videos too, so, you know, sometimes I watch my videos and I'm like, how the hell do I do the forks again? So I'll just, you know, I'll watch. I'm getting pretty good at this now. I probably don't have to watch it anymore. I don't even know if I'm going to post this. I mean, it's so similar to my last one, but whatever. I made the stupid video. I guess I might as well post it. Whatever. I'm pumping it up and down like a crazy man. Fucking dumping some more oil in there. Oh yeah, you got to make sure you have, you know, make sure you have like 2 of these liters or quarts or whatever those containers are, because it sucks. You got to use a little bit more than you're actually gonna need, because you suck some out at the end. And you know, when people, I know a lot of guys that they do this so often. They don't do this every time they rebuild their fork or take their forks apart. They change the seals and they put in a measured amount of oil that they know is exactly how much they want. And then they go to the track and they take a little needle and they put it in their whatever you call it, their air bleeder screw, and they suck oil out, or they put more oil in and they test it and get all crazy. But I don't do that. You know, I'll just change more oil every once in a while, and then I go ride for I don't know, for 50 hours or so, I guess, and just kind of try all different terrain, try clickers with that oil setting and see how it feels. And but I'm pretty noob at all this stuff too. I've really only been messing around with suspension for a couple of years now, so alright, just about done. And I don't really know if I have anything more to say, so maybe we'll just oh, there we go. So I'm gonna put these forks back in, and I'm just gonna kind of clack in a couple of these little plastic shims that they usually use for, I used to do a lot of construction, and I used to use those for shimming toilets. Anyways, you could buy them at the depot or Ace Hardware. I got some at Ace. Why am I talking about where I got them from? I don't know. Whatever. So anyways, it's a little bit tight can't quite get it up in that top triple clamp. So I'm going to reach for my hammer, and I don't know, actually it might be the bottom or the top. So I'm just going to give him a little bit of a tap. Kind of holding the shock with the bottom of my foot. It's hard to tell, but I don't want it to fall out as I do this. So yeah, give a little bit of a punch, and it should go right up in there. Now once if you get those plastic shims just right, you'll have just enough tension to kind of like it'll hold it in place, and you can kind of spin it and get the height just right. You want to have your air bleeder screw facing forward. I don't really know why, but that's what the manual says to do. And so yeah, there's 4 holes in this top cap, and one of the holes will line up perfectly with the triple clamp space. You can kind of tell there what I'm talking about, and if you do that, that's a good way how to get your bleeder screws straight forward. Yeah. So here, I'm just tightening them up, alternating just a little by little, and now as soon as come on, Jeff, hurry up. I'm sorry. This I should have fast forward, but it's pretty good. Now I'm getting the torque wrench out. And so you'll hear it click on 1. Come on. Come on. You can click it. Here we go. Here we go. This is it. This is the click. There. Now I go on to the second one. And here, click. Come on. Click. Alright. But now the top one's loose again. So you got to get that one. And now the bottom one will be loose. And you kind of just do this. And eventually, they'll both click out. And you can go back and forth. And they're set both. And they don't. That's it. You're done. So I don't know if there's a better way of doing this or not. But you kind of have to just go back and forth. The last thing I want to do is get it all screwed up and bent or whatever. Just, or they're so nice right now. You can tell I used to use a screwdriver in there. That's why, it's so bad. Use those plastic shims, man. I don't know why I didn't think about that before, but yeah. There you could tell that part of the fork is messed up, because that's actually where the stop, the full turn stop is for your bike. It'll actually hit that screw. So that little black thing, that's not from a screwdriver. That's actually wear and tear on the bike, which is kind of weird, but I guess it's fine. So, okay, anyway, clicking on both of these things. Jeez, I really should fast forward this. Oh, never mind, I was just about done. So here you can see that the top of the fork has 2 scored lines in it, and it's flush right with that second line. So here's the other fork off, so you can see both those lines. Alright, now I'm going to fast forward and do a little bit of the other fork real quick. And I got that one a little bit faster. And throwing the screws back in. You don't need to take those all the way out, but the plastic shims don't fit if I don't. I'm going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I guess you got to do this, I don't know, 5-6 times. And finally they both click. And oh, that was more like 10 times. We're not counting, we don't care. A bunch of times until it's ready, until it's done. So here we go, same thing. Okay, alright, there we go. Now we're going to put the caliper back on, and you want to make sure that the lines kind of go on the inside of the fork. Man, I did this one time and I had it all set up, and then I went to go put the fork guard on and realized I had the lines on the wrong side. So the lines go on the inside. You're going to want to put a little dab of this Loctite on the ends. It's Loctite 243. And it's some crazy strong stuff. I found it at Napa. They didn't really have it at the normal auto parts store, yeah. So you got to search for it. But the guys at Napa were like, "Oh yeah, I think we could." So they knew right what it was. So people that know, they knew what this stuff is. And it's not like regular Loctite blue or red or whatever they say. It's Loctite 243. And yeah. Oh, by the way, if you're going to use that Loctite solvent to get off the old stuff, make sure you clean it off with water afterwards if you're not into reading instructions on the can. Yeah. So there you go. Now I'm going to... And I'm doing this pretty quick. Like, you get in that Loctite, just get in there now. I'm torquing them down. And there you go. Those are torqued. Next thing you want to do is put that little zip tie on there. It's a little plastic connector. What is that, you guys? Is that the Speedo or something? I don't really care. Anyway, so you take this, there's this little wire that comes down, and it has a little notch in that white connector. So that's where the zip tie goes. well, it's pretty sure that's where it went when I got it from the dealer, because I got this bike new. Ooh, look at me. Ooh. Whatever, dude. I'm 40. I worked hard all my life, and I finally got a dirt bike when I'm like 38. That my dreams. This is my dream bike. 39. So, whatever, dude. I love this bike. I don't have much in life, but I got this bike. Okay, what was I talking about? Blah, blah, blah. These screws are kind of stupid. Like, I mean, I don't like plastic screws. But you know how you fix them? You put Teflon around the screw, and then you jam a bunch of epoxy in the hole, and you screw the screw in there. Epoxy and Teflon, they don't stick. So it's basically like you're like filling the hole in with new plastic. And so yeah, look it up. Use epoxy to fix those. Now I'm going to take a little waterproof grease. I didn't show it, but I put it on the axle. Here's how I mount a front tire. So I get it really close there to where it should go. And then I get a chair. And my stand's only raising up the motorcycle an inch off the ground, which is how I like to work, because that way if it ever does fall, it doesn't go very far. Anyway, then it's stable that way. Now I just jam my feet under there, and it holds it up right at the level while I can adjust. And then once I get it where I want it, this actually took me longer this time than it usually does. Probably because I knew I was videotaping, and I'm so nervous for like the millions of viewers that are gonna watch this. Pfft. Anyway, so yeah, you just kind of, if you hold it with your feet like that, and you don't have the bike lifted up too much, you can kind of use your feet at the bottom to raise the tire up to get it just right. And yeah, I don't know. Works pretty good for me. Kind of makes you look like a dork when you're doing it, but who cares? Usually no one sees you, but unless you're doing a stupid video like I'm doing. I don't even know why I like doing these videos, but I do, so I don't really care. Do you have to know everything in life? Do I have to know why I do things, or can I just do them? Well, I don't know. I don't know why I like doing this. I just do. I've always liked taking shit apart, and I've always liked riding dirt bikes. And ever since I started making videos and editing them, I've liked making videos and editing them. I don't get all crazy though, you know, like I don't get all. So anyways, what are we talking about now? Maybe I do get a little bit crazy. I've had a lot of coffee and it's late at night. I don't usually do that, so I'm kind of being an idiot. But what else? What else am I supposed to talk about? You know, this video would probably be boring otherwise. Maybe it's boring right now. I don't really know. So yeah. You know, you got to go look up these torque specs in the book. I'm not going to go over them all, because what if I give them wrong and then you fuck up your bike? So this is, you know, this is all just how I do it. I'm not trying to tell you guys how to do it. If you want to give me feedback on how I'm being stupid on any of these, like how you would do it differently, like here, everybody's going to tell me how to fucking tighten my fork bolts. Well, there's a million ways to do it, and basically, don't let your forks bind up. Make sure that the axle's greased up and good. This is the way the manual says to do it, which is kind of stupid, but yeah. So the manual says make sure that your pinch bolts are loose, and then push up and down on it like this a bunch of times. Doesn't even tell you how many. I guess I'm doing 5, so do it 5, 6 times, and then I don't know. I kind of try to hold the bike up straight like that. Stupid, but anyways, and I've also taken measurements to make sure. Because you don't want to. You want to make sure that that right fork isn't like too far in or too far out. Because you want those fork legs to be parallel. So you know, if you can, you kind of measure with whatever tools you got, and really down to the millimeter, how far apart they are at the base where the fork comes out, and how far apart when they're fully extended. And yeah, now there's guys that have really technical ways of doing that and swear that if you don't get those forks mounted just right, that you'll have fork binding and your forks will suck. So, I don't know. But also, once you do figure out where your setting is when you're putting your forks on, then people say they score their axle. Well, my bike already has a scored part on the axle, and it just happens to be where it lines up where the forks are perfect. So I don't know if they did that on purpose. They probably did. And so maybe your axle has a little score on it too already. So here is the list of things that I used. 1/4 inch torque wrench, a 3/8 torque wrench. We got a couple different size sockets. Got this fork cap tool, 22, 24 millimeter big wrench. Yeah, what the heck is this one on the end there? It's like 7/8
which fits the top of this. So whatever fits the top of that. You need some sort of a brush or a wire wheel combined with the use of some Loctite remover. And gonna need some fork oil. This is what I use. This Rock Oil 5. And some simple green to clean up. That works really good for cleaning up spills on the floor. And let's see here. I don't really need those, so just pretend like you didn't see those. You need some of these dikes. You need some of these plastic shims, which are really great. Usually people use them for shimming toilets. A little hammer to hammer them in. And a socket, a little wrench for adjusting the compression, clickers, some waterproof grease, some glasses for when you're using sprays, and some a zip tie for when you gotta latch that cable onto the brake, and some Loctite 243. Nice little small ratcheter with an extension. It's handy. And yeah, that's about it.